Prominent Chicago attorney Mike Roman, from DePaul law student raising scholarship funds for incoming Latino law students to winning civil rights cases in federal courtrooms on behalf of wrongfully convicted defendants in Cook County, Illinois.
Song was written by Mike Roman right there.
October 14th is also the day a rape occurred. Gilberto Gonzalez has been charged with that crime. Bob Petty has the story.
The 21-year-old Chicagoan was arrested on the rape charge last December. After more than 30 days in the Cook County Jail, he was released on bond. What makes the Gonzalez case unusual is the fact that when the crime was committed, several miles from the site of his wedding reception, Gonzalez's attorney says he has an airtight alibi.
There's going to be 200 witnesses, if not more, that are willing to testify in open court as to the fact that he was there having his own wedding party. Now, it would seem to me that there's no mystery about this to the state's attorney. And it would also seem to me that it is highly unlikely that the groom's presence would go unnoticed in a situation like this.
Gonzalez has no known criminal record. As a result of his arrest, he lost his job and medical insurance, which would have covered the birth of the baby he and his wife are now expecting. Next month, the case goes to court, and attorney Mike Roman says this is one case he is certain to win if 200 witnesses for Gonzalez are called to testify and verify his alibi.
Rape and robbery has agreed to an out-of-court settlement in his civil rights suit with the city. Gilberto Gonzalez had been accused of crimes that were committed while Gonzalez was at his own wedding reception. Bob Petty joins us with the story. Bob?
Well, Joel, that settlement agreement came after the city probably took a closer look at his case and decided apparently that there was no need to take it any further. And being a good Samaritan by attempting to return a wallet he found to its owner. When he returned that wallet to her home, he was arrested and accused of raping and robbing the woman. The 24-year-old Southsider spent 32 days in jail, lost 2 jobs and his wife after being branded a rapist. 3 police officers who investigated the case were accused of maliciously keeping Gonzalez in jail because the rape victim was the daughter of a former Chicago police officer. They were charged with denying him his civil rights and failing to check his alibi. He and some 100 guests were attending his wedding reception when the rape and robbery occurred.
The money was a minor issue in terms of the actual damages that my client incurred or suffered. But the principle, especially in this country, that we marvel at the fact that a man is supposed to be innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. This man had the perfect alibi.
I feel happy now, you know, because everything is over, you know.
Gonzalez says that he has no hard feelings against members of the Chicago Police Department, the Cook County State's Attorney's Office, or anyone else. He says that all he wants to do now is to get on with his life.
In fact, the police officers never even bothered to write down Gilberto Gonzalez's alibi on the police report. And after all, those police reports are very important, vital.
Oh, yeah.
And they always rely on the police reports to follow through with an investigation. They omitted that important fact that he had that alibi, that he was getting married on that night.
Neither Gonzalez nor his attorney would say just how much the settlement amounted to.
His case was one of mistaken identity. He was arrested and held in jail for 32 days without bail. Mr. Gilberto Gonzalez has experienced a tremendous change in his life as a result of this experience. Here to discuss this case is Gilberto Gonzalez, and with him his attorney, Mike Roman. Gentlemen, welcome to our People Los Hispanos.
Thank you.
Gilberto, how do you feel after experiencing this this tremendous experience? I'm sure it has it has given you some gray hairs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. How long did it take for this whole case to be resolved?
About 3 or 4 years.
3 or 4 years?
Yes.
Oh my goodness, that's a long time. 32 days, Mike, that's a long time to keep a man in jail without bail. What is that accustomed? Are you accustomed to seeing this kind of case?
I've seen longer periods of time. I believe that the problem in this case was that my client, Mr. Gonzalez, and his family couldn't raise the bond money, the bail money.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reason for 32 days. However, I believe if the police department had verified his alibi, he would never have been placed incarcerated to begin with.
Mm-hmm. Before I want to ask you about that particular point, but what was bail?
The amount of the bail, I believe, after motions for reduction, came to $25,000.
$25,000. Do you think
Right.
that's a fair bail?
I thought it was excessive in view of the fact that Mr. Gonzalez didn't have a previous record.
Uh-huh.
Was 20 years old at the time, just married, working. So I believe on that basis it was excessive, yes.
Do you think well, it's hard. You feel that this was done to your client because of discrimination?
Well, I think the main focus of this whole situation is one of two cultures colliding. You have a Hispanic man that's accused of a rape, kidnapping, and armed robbery, and at the time he didn't speak English too well. As a result, he was not able to communicate and
Mm-hmm.
convey his alibi properly to the police officers. They nevertheless understood the alibi, and his alibi was that on the night of the alleged rape, which was October 14 of 1978 at about 7:30 p.m., he had been several miles away from the site of the rape. He was getting married, celebrating his own wedding at the reception before over 100 people.
Uh-huh.
When it all started, I'm sure Gilberto will tell you that while jogging, running on 99th and Ewing on the south side of Chicago near Calumet Park, he found a wallet, a woman's wallet. And he decided to call her up, and after making arrangements to return the wallet, when he arrived at the woman's house, the police officers were waiting for him and they put him in jail. Now he told them that on October 14th he was at his wedding, so he could never have done that.
You said, Mike, that he communicated as best he could.
Yes, and it was...
What did the police tell you, Gilberto, when you told them that you weren't there?
Well, they didn't, they really don't listen to me,
They didn't listen at all?
No.
And so for 32 days, they didn't bother to check his alibi?
That's correct. In fact, it was longer than that, because after he was manded out in February of 1979, we had to go to several court hearings, and the state's attorneys and the police officers and investigators, they, in my opinion, they dragged their feet in terms of getting out and verifying the alibi. All they had to do is call the priest, call the hall manager or any of the witnesses, the band, anybody else. He had contracts, he had wedding invitations, all sorts
of
of
the
evidence.
documents that you needed.
That's true.
You didn't offer these to the police?
Yes.
Yeah. And they just didn't pay any attention?
Yeah.
Are your parents living in Chicago?
Yes.
What went through your mind, Gilberto? And I don't know, I'm kind of placing myself in Gilberto and thinking, what would I do? What went through your mind when the police came to your wedding and arrested you?
Well, excuse me, he didn't come to his wedding.
Oh, he didn't come to your wedding?
No.
Oh.
This happened 2.5 months after he got married.
Oh, okay, after his wedding.
And they arrested him outside the house, the woman's house.
Did you already know that the police were considering you as a suspect?
No.
No? What went through your mind? This can't be happening to me.
Yeah.
You got to be kidding. Did you say that to yourself? I know I
yeah.
said it. You can't be doing that to me. What did you do? Did you call anyone in particular? Did you call Mike on this?
No, I called my wife.
Call your wife?
Yeah.
I guess it was sort of happened fast and you couldn't think of anything afterward.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about the technicalities of this case. No one bothered to examine
in our opinion, this was the main reason why we decided to file a case in federal court for a violation of Gilberto's civil rights. One, we felt that the police department failed to conduct a reasonable investigation of the alibi. Two, we felt that the police officers wrongfully filed police reports. For instance, they did not include Gilberto's alibi, his whereabouts, or at least that he denied it.
You mean in the report that the police
report,
did?
that's correct.
They didn't describe his response to their questions.
That's correct. Those police reports are very important, essential, and vital in terms of the police officers. They refer back to those police reports to refresh their recollection and also conduct a proper investigation. Now, needless to say, the investigation is supposed to be objective and unbiased. What took place here was that they wrote everything, and when I say they, it was the officers who were investigating, who we sued in federal court. They failed to write down his alibi. They wrote statements that he never made, and only any information or evidence that perhaps could be circumstantial or incriminating against Gilberto, that's what they wrote. Within the course of our investigation, we were able to ascertain that the woman's father, who's now a retired police sergeant.
You mean the person
right,
who
the
was
victim.
raped? The victim?
Her father was a police sergeant.
Police officer.
A sergeant. He comes to the police station before any charges are actually filed against Gilberto, and it was proven in federal court that he had a conversation with one of the officers. And
he's not supposed to do that?
Well, we felt that there was undue influence, and that it was just a way to railroad Gilberto. For instance, when he showed up at the house, in the woman's house, the woman was on the second floor apartment. When she called the police and told them that he was the rapist. Now, she told the police that the rapist had pat marks and acne, severe acne. In federal court, we offer...
Gilberto, you don't have severe acne. You got nice, clear skin.
We offered those pictures from the wedding. He was wearing a white tuxedo. The rapist supposedly was wearing sun rim glasses with an army jacket. Now, unless he was Superman, I don't see how he could leave his wedding in his absence being unnoticed. I mean, he's a groom. He's the center of attention.
The charges, have they been dropped?
They were dropped in '79, definitely. Sure, because as you know, the State's Attorney's Office has a term period in which they must prove their allegations, or else they have to drop the case.
Was the victim Hispanic?
No, she was white.
Okay. Tell me, Gilberto, I understand you lost your job because of this.
Yes.
What did you do? What are you doing now?
Well, now I'm working.
Oh, you found another job?
Yes.
But you actually lost your job because of this whole case?
Yes.
Why? Tell us why.
Well, because they put me in jail. Then when I get up in jail, I get another job and I lose it too.
Oh, because you couldn't go to the work because you were in jail?
Yes.
I see.
Because he had to go to court, see?
Yeah.
Several times.
How do you feel about your experience today? You know, what kind of feelings are going through your mind? But you must have some kind of bitterness about this. Or are you feeling relieved that it's solved? Are you happy with the outcome?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I think that, as he told me in Spanish, he's happy that everything is already known, that he was not only exonerated in the criminal level, but also in federal court, whereas, you know, the city made a settlement with us. At the end of our case, they approached us and made a settlement rather than risk the jury, return a verdict
risk
against the police.
This happened here in Chicago. We're not talking about a suburb or anything. This is Chicago.
That's right.
Whereabouts were you living at this time, at the time that happened?
Here in Chicago.
In what street, what area?
Burley, 88.
88 Burley?
Yeah.
Is that heavily a Mexican area? Mexican community?
No.
No, it's mixed.
Yeah.
Okay. Si quieres decir algo en español, do you want to say anything in Spanish?
Está bien.
Está bien. Okay. Well.
Porque es mejor para mí para poder desenvolverme mejor.
Sí.
Bueno, pues yo lo único que quiero decir es de que ahora me siento a gusto, contento y puedo respirar más bien y ahora sí porque todo se terminó. Y que pues yo no cometí ninguno de los cargos que me estaban acusando.
You want to translate?
He says that I feel relieved, happy that I can now breathe easier and feel content that I was exonerated. I was proven that it was proven that it couldn't have been me that committed those crimes that I was charged with.
This is frightening. You know, it can happen to any person. You know?
To anybody, that's correct.
I'm sure there's cases of mistaken identity, especially in rape cases, where people are accused innocently.
Right. We never contended that the rape didn't take place, but there was certainly a case of mistaken identity coupled with some shenanigans on the part of the police officers involved in the case, definitely.
Well, Mike, thank you for bringing this to our attention and sharing this case. Gilberto, buena suerte en tu vida.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you for being with us and sharing us your experience, and hope that it doesn't happen again. Jeez. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Failure to disclose one's Social Security number or the failure to have one at the conclusion of a divorce case can prevent the Court of Cook County, as well as courts in other Illinois counties, from granting a divorce in cases where the parties have minor children. I know that's all a mouthful, and we've said quite a bit in just a short period of time. But here to explain more in detail the meaning of all this, I'd like for you to meet my guests. First, Attorney Michael A. Roman and Attorney Burton F. Grant. Both gentlemen are involved in defending couples with this type of problem. Gentlemen, good morning. How are you? Nice to have you here. What's the big deal about having the Social Security number? I know a lot of people haven't really thought about this.
Well, I think it's best explained if we can go into the history of what's happened in Illinois in the past year and a half or so. Last January of 1982, the state of Illinois enacted some new law which now allows for the payment of child support through the clerk's office of the various county clerks. And this was done, and done with a proper motive to enable collections of child support to be made more effectively. And the problem now, though, is in doing this, in enabling the system to work through computers in most counties, they are requesting couples to give certain personal information. It's been my experience in my practice handling mostly divorce law and representing couples in custody cases and divorce cases that most of them elect not to use the system. They still prefer to have child support paid directly from one to the other. It's a little faster, and in many cases, a husband or wife, as the case may be, whoever is to receive child support, really doesn't want to go through the red tape. But the Cook County system requires these people, even those that don't want to use the system, to still fill out personal information, which, if it's not completed at the end of the divorce case, their divorce will not be granted, even though they've complied with other state laws which are relative to proving jurisdiction, proving grounds exist, proving all the other things that the statute requires. The judge will not grant the judgment for dissolution of marriage because they refuse to give out information. Now, some couples don't give it out because they don't have the information. Some don't give it out because they want to stand on their constitutional rights, one of which is the right of privacy. In 1974, we found that our country enacted legislation federally which now allows people to protect certain privileged information from having to be divulged, such as Social Security numbers. And that information, now being privileged, should not be required to be divulged by county clerks. I believe it would be fair to ask someone to divulge certain information to help to make the program effective, make it work. But for those who aren't going to use the system, they should be not compelled to have to give that information.
And this basically is what the petition that you have filed basically states, I mean, in layman's terms. Am I correct?
Right. Specifically, we are attacking the validity of this document, which I have before me. It's called a Family Support Memorandum of Judgment form. It calls for very specific private and personal information. It calls for both spouses' Social Security numbers. It calls for the complexion of the male, his weight, his height, whether or not he's got his car, a tattoo.
What does that got to do with getting a divorce, which is...
Exactly, that's our objection. This sounds like a prepared arrest warrant and the presumption that every father is going to go delinquent. And I believe this runs contrary to our system, which is a presumption of innocence until proven guilty. Several fathers, and specifically a certain couple that came to me, they had one child. It was not contested. They wanted to get divorced, so we went through the trial court. The court found jurisdiction. They found grounds. And the judge also found that the marital agreement, which they had entered into between themselves, was equitable, fair. So at that time, the judge asked me to come back to the court and prepare the documents, which is the decree, the divorce decree, and he would enter it on the books. To my surprise and my dismay, that of my clients, after have paying me the fees and the cost, I went back and the clerk refused to enter the decree on the appropriate books on the sole basis that my clients refused to submit this document. Now I explained to him, I said, it sounds to me that this is unfair and it's contrary to the 1974 Privacy Act that Professor Burton Grant was referring to. You see, the 1974 Privacy Act, it specifically states that when any governmental or state agency asks for anyone, you or I or any person, to disclose his or her Social Security numbers, they must cite on that document, that agency must cite on that document where they are getting the authority to do so. And on this document, nowhere on the face of this document does it appear the site or the citation, the authority by which they are proceeding under. This is another one of our basic contentions and disagreements that we have with this type of a system. We are not attacking the program per se, which has, as you know, has been enforced since January 1st of 1982.
Sure.
We are saying that the program should be voluntary and not mandatory for people, as Professor Burton has stated, for people that want to participate in the program. They, of course, the Social Security numbers are crucial because that's how the computers work.
All right, when we, in setting up this program, when we talked to representatives of the city clerk, they mentioned the fact that the Social Security number is important in trying to trace down fathers who have refused to pay child support.
Well, I disagree with that, Wanda. Anybody can change a Social Security number at will. There's a parallel to this, too. The Secretary of State's office, prior to 1975, also required Social Security numbers to be affixed to your driver's license. In 1975, shortly after the Privacy Act was passed, they now do not require it mandatorily to be given, but it's discretionary. You may give it if you want. You don't have to give it if you don't want. The Secretary of State's office, by statute now, can assign you your own number, a different number, separate from a Social Security number. And we believe that Cook County can do the same thing. They can use the case number itself. They can give you a different number. They can use a federal employer's number, but not a Social Security number. Social Security numbers, by the way, most people don't understand how much information can be gained from a Social Security number. If you know someone's number and you wrote to the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare and asked for all employment information on that individual, you would get a computer printout of that individual's total employment background.
I wanted to put back something to the community to encourage young people to go on to whether it was a legal career or medical career like my father.